The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the vast space. Elena Martinez walked slowly across the polished floor, her footsteps barely making a sound in the enormous room. She was the only human among hundreds of alien beings who filled the curved rows of seats that rose up like a giant bowl. Around the center stage, Elena took her place in the small section, marked for Earth. The chair was old and worn compared to the golden thrones and crystal platforms used by the major species. She could feel thousands of eyes watching her, some curious but most filled with the same look she had seen for years. They saw humans as nothing more than useful workers, good for mining asteroids and building basic structures that the advanced races did not want to bother with. The air in the chamber felt thick and heavy. Elena breathed slowly and kept her face calm even though her heart was beating fast. She knew this day would come. For months, their spy networks had been picking up strange signals and whispers about human activities in the outer solar system. Someone had been watching Earth more carefully than usual. Admiral Jake Collins sat beside Elena in the human section. His uniform was simple and plain compared to the elaborate armor and robes worn by the alien military leaders. Jake had served in Earth's small defense force for 30 years. His gray hair and lined face showed the stress of keeping humanity's greatest secret for the past 2 decades. He nodded slightly to Elena, a gesture that would look casual to any observer but carried deep meaning between them. Supreme Chancellor Vextar rose from his massive throne at the center of the chamber. The Zephyrian leader stood 3 meters tall, his forearms moving in practiced gestures as he spoke. His 4 eyes glowed with a cold light as they fixed on Elena. The translator device built into every seat carried his words in perfect human English, though the mechanical tone could not hide the contempt in his voice. "We gather today to address a serious violation of the Galactic Accords," Vextar announced. His voice boomed through the chamber, causing some of the smaller species to shift nervously in their seats. Intelligence reports indicate that the human species has been constructing military vessels beyond their permitted classification. Elena felt Jake tense beside her, but she kept her expression neutral. They had practiced for this moment countless times. Every word, every gesture, every reaction had been planned and rehearsed. The survival of humanity might depend on how well they could play their roles in the next few hours. High Inquisitor Kethva of the Crystalline Confederation stood up from her platform. Her body was made of living crystal that caught and reflected the chamber's lights in rainbow patterns. When she moved, musical tones filled the air, creating an almost hypnotic effect. But Elena knew that behind the beautiful appearance was one of the most ruthless investigators in the galaxy. "Our surveillance networks have detected massive energy signatures in your outer solar system," Kethva said. Her crystalline form pulsed with different colors as she spoke, each hue carrying emotional undertones that the translators converted into words. "Construction materials and rare elements have been shipped to coordinates beyond Neptune's orbit in quantities that exceed anything a Class 2 civilization should require." The chamber erupted in whispers and strange sounds as delegates from different species discussed this news among themselves. Elena recognized the low growling of the Ursine Collective, the high-pitched whistles of the Avian Republic, and the electronic beeping of the machine consensus. Each species had its own way of expressing surprise and concern, but the message was clear. Everyone was worried about what humanity might be building. Elena stood slowly and walked to the speaking platform at the center of the chamber. The walk felt like it took forever, with hundreds of alien faces watching her every step. She had done this many times before, but never with stakes this high. When she reached the microphone, she looked up at the assembled delegates and spoke in a clear, steady voice. "The human government welcomes any investigation into our activities," she said. "We have nothing to hide from our fellow members of the Galactic Council. If there are concerns about our compliance with the Accords, we invite you to inspect any of our facilities." A ripple of surprise went through the chamber. Most species would have protested such accusations or demanded proof before allowing inspections. Humans were known for being cooperative, but this level of openness was unexpected. Elena could see confusion on many faces as delegates tried to understand what game the humans might be playing. Admiral Quindar of the Hegemony Navy stood up from his section. The massive reptilian warrior was covered in natural armor plates and carried weapons that were integrated into his body. His species had been warriors for thousands of years, and he had personally led battles that destroyed entire star systems. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had never known defeat. Cooperation is appreciated, Quindar said, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. But the evidence is clear. Energy readings consistent with Class 5 military construction have been detected. Material shipments include titanium steel composites and quantum processing cores. These are not materials used for civilian projects. Elena nodded politely to the Admiral. We understand your concerns. Admiral Collins will provide you with complete records of all our construction projects and material acquisitions. We have been expanding our asteroid mining operations and building new research stations. Perhaps the increased activity has created readings that appear more significant than they actually are. Jake stepped forward and activated a holographic display that showed detailed charts and shipping records. The information was real and accurate, showing exactly what Elena had claimed. Mining equipment, research materials, and construction supplies for civilian projects. Nothing that would violate the Accords or threaten galactic security. But Elena knew that the real secret was hidden in plain sight. The materials and energy readings were exactly what the aliens had detected. What they could not understand was how those same materials and energy sources could be used to create something far beyond their imagination. Human engineering had always been different from other species. Where aliens built with brute force and overwhelming power, humans found elegant solutions that used less resources to achieve better results. Supreme Chancellor Vextar studied the holographic displays for several minutes. His four eyes moved independently, each one focusing on different parts of the data. Finally, he looked back at Elena with an expression that mixed suspicion with grudging respect. The Council will conduct a full inspection of human space within 7 standard days, he announced. All facilities, all vessels, all construction sites will be examined by our combined intelligence services. Any attempt to hide or destroy evidence will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council. Elena bowed slightly to show respect for the Council's authority. Earth welcomes this inspection. We will provide complete access to our facilities and full cooperation with your investigation teams. As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the chamber, Jake moved close to Elena. To any observer, they looked like they were simply discussing logistics for the upcoming inspection. But Jake's quiet words carried a much deeper message. Phase 1 complete. All stations have been notified. The Leviathan is ready. Elena smiled slightly as they walked toward the exit. The Galactic Council was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had always been the ability to hide their true capabilities until the perfect moment to reveal them. The inspection fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a swarm of metal predators. 3 massive dreadnoughts led the formation, each one belonging to a different major species of the Galactic Council. Behind them came dozens of smaller vessels packed with the most advanced scanning equipment in known space. Fleet Commander Zareth watched from the bridge of his flagship as the sensors began their sweep of human territory. Lisa Brooks received the incoming fleet from her position aboard the orbital defense platform above Earth. She had been chosen for this role because of her perfect record and calm personality. Lisa knew that every word she spoke and every action she took would be analyzed by alien intelligence experts looking for signs of deception. She opened communications with the inspection fleet and welcomed them to human space with polite professionalism. The first inspection team landed on Luna 3 days later. Dr. Nathan Price met them at the airlock of the main mining facility. With a nervous smile and sweaty palms, he had spent weeks practicing his role as the worried scientist who was afraid of saying the wrong thing to powerful aliens. Nathan led the team through the underground tunnels where massive machines carved rare minerals from the moon's surface. Everything was exactly as reported to the Council. The alien inspectors were not impressed by what they saw. Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian military made snorting sounds through his breathing apparatus as he examined the simple fusion-powered mining equipment. The human technology was functional but primitive compared to what his own species had been using for centuries. He dictated notes to his recording device about the crude but adequate nature of human engineering. High Inquisitor Kethva arrived at the Jupiter Research Station on the 4th day of inspections. Her crystalline form reflected the light of the giant planet as she floated through the station's corridors. The human researchers showed her their atmospheric studies and gas mining experiments with appropriate respect and fear. Dr. Sarah, Kim explained their work on improving fuel extraction from the planet's upper atmosphere while trying not to look directly at the intimidating alien investigator. The inspection teams found exactly what Elena had promised they would find. Mining operations that matched the shipping records, research stations that explained the energy readings, construction sites that accounted for the material acquisitions. Everything was documented, cataloged, and verified. The humans were building exactly what they claimed to be building and nothing more. Admiral Jake Collins monitored the inspections from Earth's military headquarters. The command center was deliberately small and outdated, with displays that flickered and computers that took several seconds to process simple requests. When the alien military advisors toured the facility, they saw a defense force that could barely protect one solar system, much less threaten galactic security. Jake played his role perfectly, showing them classified files with obvious reluctance in explaining human defensive strategies. With the tone of someone who knew, his forces were hopelessly outmatched. Fleet Commander Zareth grew, increasingly frustrated as his deep space scanners found nothing in the outer solar system. His most advanced sensor arrays could detect objects the size of a small asteroid from light years away, but they showed only empty space and cosmic debris beyond Neptune's orbit. He ordered his ships to specific coordinates mentioned in the intelligence reports, but they found nothing except the occasional chunk of ice and rock. The Stellar Dominion brought their quantum resonance scanners, devices that could peer through most known cloaking technologies. They swept the entire Kuiper belt looking for hidden installations or camouflaged vessels. The scans revealed old comets, frozen gas clouds, and scattered debris from the solar system's formation billions of years ago. Nothing that suggested advanced military construction or secret weapons development. Dr. Nathan Price answered hundreds of questions about human technology and industrial capacity. He explained how their fusion reactors worked, showed them the basic principles behind their gravity generators, and demonstrated the simple energy weapons used by Earth's security forces. Every technology was exactly what a Class II civilization should possess. Nothing more advanced, nothing that could threaten the established order of the galaxy. Captain Lisa Brooks provided complete access to Earth's orbital defenses. The inspection teams counted every satellite, examined every weapon system, and tested every sensor array. They found a modest network of defensive platforms designed to protect against asteroids and small raiders. The weapons were powerful enough to handle pirates or smugglers, but utterly inadequate against a real military force. The aliens noted this information with satisfaction, confirming their assessment of human military weakness. The inspection of Earth's shipyards took 2 full days. Commander Veltar walked through the construction bays where human workers were building new patrol vessels and cargo transports. The ships were solid and functional, but used technology that was decades behind what the major galactic powers considered standard. He watched welders joining, metal plates by hand, and technicians installing computer systems that looked ancient compared to modern alien equipment. Lieutenant Amy Walker worked in the communications center during the inspections, monitoring all transmissions between the alien ships and their home governments. She appeared to be a junior officer handling routine message traffic, but Amy was actually one of Earth's most skilled intelligence operatives. Every alien communication was recorded, analyzed, and filed away for future reference. The inspection fleet was reporting exactly what humanity wanted them to report. High Inquisitor Kethva conducted the final review of all collected evidence. Her team had examined over 200 human facilities, interviewed thousands of workers, and scanned millions of cubic kilometers of space. The conclusion was undeniable. Humans were building exactly what they claimed to build. Their energy signatures came from civilian projects. Their material acquisitions matched their construction needs. Their technology was primitive but adequate for their current level of development. Fleet Commander Zareth prepared his final report as the inspection fleet assembled for departure. The humans had been completely cooperative and transparent during the investigation. All evidence supported their claims of peaceful development and civilian expansion. There was no sign of military buildup or advanced weapons development. The intelligence reports that had triggered this investigation appeared to be based on misunderstanding rather than actual threats. The alien ships began their journey back to Council space with confident reports of human compliance and continued weakness. None of the inspection teams noticed the small modifications that had been made to their sensors during the visit. None of them detected the signals that were being transmitted on frequencies their equipment could not perceive. Most importantly, none of them realized that they had been looking at one of the greatest deceptions in galactic history. Admiral Jake Collins watched the last alien vessel disappear into hyperspace from his office window. He picked up his secure communicator and sent a single coded message to a location that no alien scanner had been able to detect. In the cold darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, Chief Engineer Maria Santos received the message and smiled. The inspection was over. Phase 2 could now begin. The aliens had found exactly what they expected to find because humans had learned long ago that the best way to hide something was to give people what they were looking for instead. While the Galactic Council's best investigators examined mining equipment and research stations, the real secret remained invisible in the vast darkness of space, protected by technologies that the alien empires could not even imagine existed. The first reports came from the Outer Rim territories 2 months after the inspection fleet returned to Council space. Trade Captain Mortis of the Freight Guild was hauling precious metals through the Xerion passage when his escort of 6 armed vessels simply vanished from his sensors. One moment they were flying in formation around his cargo ship. The next moment he was alone in space with no sign of what had happened to them. Captain Mortis sent emergency signals to every nearby station, but received no response from his missing escorts. Their ships had been there, then they were gone, leaving no debris or energy signatures to explain their disappearance. The cargo captain completed his journey alone and filed a report with the local authorities, but nobody believed his story. Pirates did not have technology advanced enough to destroy 6 military vessels without leaving any trace. Similar reports began arriving at Council headquarters from across the galaxy. Merchant vessels found their pirate attackers destroyed by unknown forces. Smuggling operations that had operated for decades suddenly went silent. Most disturbing of all, entire criminal fleets were disappearing, without any distress calls or evidence of what had destroyed them. Admiral Quindar of the Hegemony Navy reviewed the incident reports from his command center on the fortress world of Draxus Prime. The reptilian warrior had fought pirates and raiders for over 50 years and had never seen anything like this pattern of disappearances. Criminal organizations that had survived countless military operations were being eliminated with surgical precision by something that left no witnesses and no evidence. The breakthrough came when Commander Telvar of the Border Patrol survived an encounter that should have killed him. His squadron of 8 patrol ships had been investigating a distress call in the Andorian sector when they found themselves facing a massive pirate fleet. Over 40 enemy vessels had surrounded a disabled merchant convoy and were in the process of boarding the helpless cargo ships. Commander Telvar prepared to call for reinforcements when something emerged from empty space that defied everything he thought he knew about physics and engineering. The vessel was enormous, larger than anything in the known galaxy, but it had appeared without any hyperspace signature or energy buildup. One moment there was nothing, the next moment there was a ship that dwarfed even the largest Council dreadnoughts. The unknown vessel moved through the pirate fleet like a predator among prey. Energy weapons that Telvar could not identify reached out and touched the criminal ships, which simply ceased to exist. There were no explosions, no debris fields, no escape pods. The pirate vessels were there 1 second and gone the next, as if they had never existed at all. Commander Telvar tried to scan the mysterious ship, but his sensors could not get a clear reading. The vessel seemed to absorb or deflect his scanning beams, leaving only vague impressions of massive size and impossible technology. Before he could get a better look, the unknown ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only the rescued merchant convoy and 40 empty patches of space where the pirates had been. The incident report reached the Galactic Council within hours. Emergency sessions were called as military leaders tried to understand what kind of force could destroy an entire pirate fleet in less than 5 minutes. The energy readings from Commander Telvar's sensors showed weapon signatures that matched no known technology in Council databases. High Inquisitor Kethva studied the sensor data with growing alarm. Her crystalline form pulsed with colors that indicated deep concern as she analyzed the impossible readings. The unknown vessel had used energy levels that should have required the combined power output of an entire star system. No known civilization had technology capable of generating that much power in a single ship. Elena Martinez sat in another emergency council session. listening to the frightened discussions with carefully controlled expressions. The alien delegates were passing around theories about ancient weapon systems or unknown civilizations from beyond the galactic rim. Some suggested that the disappeared pirates had been destroyed by automated defense systems left behind by the long-extinct predecessor race. Supreme Chancellor Vextar demanded answers from his intelligence services, but they had no explanations to offer. Their best spy networks and surveillance systems had detected nothing unusual in any known star system. The mysterious ship appeared to come from nowhere and return to nowhere, operating completely outside the normal patterns of galactic civilization. Captain Kevin Turner monitored the Council debates from Earth's Hidden Intelligence Center. The facility was buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, invisible to orbital scans and protected by technology that the aliens could not detect. Kevin had spent 15 years building Earth's spy network throughout Council space, and now that network was providing invaluable intelligence about alien reactions to humanity's secret operations. The truth was simpler than the Council could imagine. The U.S. Leviathan had been conducting field tests of its combat systems against real targets. Pirates and criminals made perfect test subjects because nobody would miss them, and their destruction served the greater good of galactic security. Each engagement provided valuable data about the ship's weapons, defenses, and stealth capabilities. Chief Engineer Maria Santos made final adjustments to the Leviathan systems from her position in the hidden shipyard beyond Pluto's orbit. The massive vessel had performed flawlessly during its combat trials, proving that human engineering could create something that surpassed the greatest achievements of alien civilization. The ship's quantum stealth generators made it completely invisible to Council sensors, while its matter conversion weapons could eliminate targets at the molecular level. Dr. Nathan Price reviewed the technical reports from the Leviathan's test missions while maintaining his cover as a nervous civilian scientist. The ship's power core alone represented a breakthrough that would revolutionize galactic civilization. Human researchers had solved energy generation problems that had puzzled alien scientists for centuries, using principles that the Council's greatest minds had dismissed as impossible. The most remarkable aspect of the Leviathan was not its size or firepower, but the fact that it had been built using resources and materials that the Council had cataloged and approved. Every component had been accounted for in the inspection reports. The aliens had examined the raw materials and seen mining equipment. They had never imagined that those same materials could be transformed into something that challenged the fundamental assumptions of galactic warfare. Admiral Jake Collins prepared the next phase of Earth's plan as reports of the mysterious ship spread throughout Council space. Fear was beginning to replace arrogance in alien communications. Military leaders who had dismissed humanity as primitive and harmless were now demanding increased security for their own territories. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and the aliens did not yet understand why. Elena Martinez received new instructions from Earth as the Council session continued around her. The time for hiding was almost over. Soon the galaxy would learn that humanity had been preparing for this moment for over 2 decades. The Leviathan was not just a single ship. It was proof of concept for a new kind of warfare that would reshape the political structure of known space. Admiral Vortha commanded the largest military fleet ever assembled by the Galactic Council. 237 ships from 12 different species had gathered at the edge of the Meridian sector, armed with enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. The reptilian admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays that showed his massive formation spread across thousands of kilometers of space. The Joint Task Force had been tracking the mysterious ship for 3 weeks, following energy traces and gravitational disturbances that their most sensitive instruments could barely detect. Council scientists had developed new scanning methods specifically designed to pierce whatever stealth technology the unknown vessel was using. Today they had finally cornered their target in an empty star system, far from any inhabited worlds. Fleet Commander Zareth monitored his squadron of Stellar Dominion warships from his command center. Each of his vessels carried plasma cannons capable of melting through planetary crusts and quantum torpedoes that could crack moons in half. Behind him, tactical officers prepared firing solutions for every possible escape route the enemy might attempt to use. The hyperspace sensors detected the incoming vessel 30 seconds before it arrived, Admiral Vorthak watched his displays as something massive dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the center of his formation. What appeared before them challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about ship design and engineering principles. The UES Leviathan stretched over 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its black hull absorbing sensor beams and electromagnetic radiation like a void in space. The ship's surface was smooth and featureless except for subtle geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. No weapons were visible, no engine ports could be detected, and no communication arrays appeared on its exterior. Captain Ryan Murphy stood on the Leviathan's bridge, surrounded by control systems that would have looked like magic to the alien fleet commanders. The ship's quantum computers processed information faster than entire Council research centers, while its fusion cores generated more power than most planetary civilizations used in a year. Ryan had served in Earth's Navy for 25 years, but commanding the Leviathan still felt like stepping into the future. The first communication came from Admiral Vorthak himself. The reptilian commander demanded identification and surrender, threatening to destroy the unknown vessel if it did not comply immediately. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never been challenged by an enemy he could not defeat through superior firepower. Captain Murphy activated the Leviathan's communication system and responded with calm professionalism. "This is Captain Ryan Murphy of the United Earthship Leviathan. You are trespassing in human-protected space. Withdraw your vessels immediately and no harm will come to you." The response from the alien fleet was immediate and devastating. Over 50 capital ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and explosive projectiles that could have vaporized any known vessel. Plasma bolts that burned hotter than stellar cores struck the Leviathan's hull along with quantum torpedoes, carrying enough destructive force to level cities. Commander Sandra Lee watched the incoming weapons from her tactical station aboard the Leviathan. The ship's defensive systems tracked every projectile and energy beam with perfect precision, while force field generators that operated on principles unknown to galactic science absorbed the impacts without effort. Not a single alien weapon reached the ship's actual hull. The alien fleet commanders stared at their displays in disbelief as their most powerful weapons proved completely ineffective. Energy readings showed that their attacks were being absorbed and converted into harmless radiation. Admiral Vorthak ordered his ships to increase their rate of fire, pouring even more destructive force at the mysterious human vessel. Captain Murphy gave a slight nod to Commander Lee, who activated one of the Leviathan's defensive countermeasures. The ship generated an electromagnetic pulse that spread outward at the speed of light, washing over the entire enemy fleet in a matter of seconds. Every alien vessel found its weapon system shutting down, its engines going offline, and its communication arrays falling silent. Fleet Commander Zareth watched his tactical displays go dark as his ship's power systems failed one by one. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across his bridge while his crew tried desperately to restart their main computers. Around him, 236 other ships drifted helplessly in space, their advanced technology rendered useless by whatever the humans had done to them. The Leviathan moved through the disabled fleet like a whale swimming among schools of fish. Its massive bulk dwarfed even the largest Council dreadnoughts, making their most impressive warships look like escort vessels. The ship's movement was silent and smooth, propelled by drives that produced no visible exhaust or energy signature. Admiral Vorthak managed to restore partial communications and sent a desperate message to the human ship. His voice had lost its commanding tone and now carried notes of fear and confusion. "What are you? How did you build something like this?" The humans are supposed to be primitive, barely capable of interstellar flight. Captain Murphy's response was broadcast to every ship in the disabled fleet. "We are exactly what we have always been. You simply chose not to look beyond your own assumptions. Humanity has been preparing for this day for over 20 years while you dismissed us as harmless and backward." The truth began to dawn on the alien commanders as they realized the scope of what they were facing. The humans had not suddenly acquired advanced technology from some unknown source. They had developed it themselves while pretending to be the primitive species that the Council expected them to be. Every inspection, every evaluation, every assessment had been carefully managed to hide humanity's true capabilities. Chief Engineer Maria Santos monitored the encounter from the Leviathan's engineering sections. The ship's systems were operating at less than 5% of their maximum capability. The electromagnetic pulse that had disabled the entire alien fleet was one of the weakest weapons in their arsenal. If the situation required it, the Leviathan could have destroyed every enemy ship in seconds rather than simply disabling them. Admiral Vorthak attempted to restore his ship's weapon systems, but every circuit that his engineers repaired was immediately shut down again by the human vessel's continuing interference. His fleet was completely at the mercy of an enemy that had demonstrated technological superiority beyond anything in Council records. Captain Murphy opened communications one final time before departing. Return to your leaders and tell them that humanity is no longer requesting a place at the galactic table. We are offering the Council a choice between cooperation and irrelevance. The old order of species classification and technological control is ending. What replaces it will depend on the wisdom of your governments. The Leviathan disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving the disabled alien fleet floating in empty space. It took Admiral Vorthak's ship 6 hours to restore enough power to begin the journey back to Council space. The reptilian commander spent those hours writing a report that would change the political structure of the galaxy forever. The age of human dominance had begun not through conquest, but through demonstration. The Galactic Council would have to decide whether they would accept the new reality or face the consequences of challenging a species that had proven capable of building impossible things. The Galactic Council chambers had never seen such chaos. Emergency sessions had been called for 5 straight days as reports flooded in from every corner of known space. The mysterious human vessel had not disappeared after its encounter with Admiral Vorthak's fleet. Instead, it had begun a systematic tour of every major military installation, every seat of government, and every symbol of galactic authority. Supreme Chancellor Vexitar paced across the speaking platform, his forearms gesturing wildly as he tried to maintain control over the panicking delegates. The massive Zephyrian leader had ruled the council for 30 years, but he had never faced a crisis like this. His own homeworld's orbital defense network had been shut down for 6 hours, while the human ship positioned itself directly above the planetary capital. High Inquisitor Ketheva stood at her crystal platform, her translucent form flickering between colors that indicated extreme stress and confusion. Her species had always prided itself on superior intelligence and analytical capabilities, but they could not explain how humans had developed technology that made their own achievements look primitive. The crystalline investigator had spent decades studying human activities and had found no evidence of the capabilities they were now displaying. Elena Martinez walked slowly to the center of the chamber, but this time her footsteps echoed with confidence instead of caution. She no longer looked like the nervous representative of a minor species. Her posture was straight, her expression was calm, and her voice carried the authority of someone who spoke for a power that could no longer be ignored or dismissed. The holographic displays that Elena activated showed technical specifications that took the assembled delegates' breath away. Fusion reactors that generated power levels previously thought impossible. Energy shields that could absorb the combined firepower of entire fleets. Weapon systems that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Most shocking of all, construction facilities that were already building 6 more vessels identical to the Leviathan. Admiral Jake Collins stepped forward to address the stunned alien leadership. His simple uniform now seemed appropriate rather than primitive, as he explained the new reality that the galaxy would have to accept. Earth had not acquired this technology from some external source or discovered ancient alien artifacts. They had developed it themselves over the course of 25 years while allowing the Council to believe they were harmless and backward. The revelation that changed everything came when Elena displayed the historical records of humanity's first contact with the predecessor race. The ancient civilization that most Council species believed to be mythical had actually survived in hidden enclaves throughout the galaxy. They had watched younger species develop and had chosen humanity as the inheritors of their most advanced knowledge. Dr. Nathan Price appeared via hologram from Earth's primary research facility. The nervous scientist persona he had maintained during the inspections was gone, replaced by the confident demeanor of someone who had helped solve scientific problems that alien civilizations had struggled with for millennia. He explained how human creativity and adaptability had allowed them to improve upon predecessor designs in ways that the original creators had never imagined. General Patricia Hughes, Earth's new Minister of Galactic Affairs, outlined humanity's terms for the new galactic order. The old system of species classification would be abolished immediately. Trade routes would be protected by human vessels that could guarantee safe passage for all legitimate merchants. Most importantly, the Council's monopoly on advanced technology would be broken forever. The transformation was not just about military power. Captain Murphy appeared on the main display from the Leviathan's bridge, explaining how humanity's greatest advantage had always been their ability to see potential where others saw only limitations. While other species had focused on building bigger weapons and stronger shields, humans had learned to think differently about the fundamental problems of space travel and energy generation. The smaller species that had been oppressed by the Council's major powers began to speak up for the first time in decades. Representatives from mining colonies and agricultural worlds that had been forced to accept unfair trade agreements now saw hope for a better future. The human offer of protection and technological assistance meant that they would no longer have to submit to the demands of more powerful neighbors. Supreme Chancellor Vextar made one final attempt to maintain the old order. He argued that humanity's sudden rise to power would destabilize the careful balance that had maintained galactic peace for centuries. His species and the other major powers had responsibilities and obligations that could not simply be transferred to an upstart civilization that had been unknown just decades ago. Elena's response silenced the chamber completely. She activated a holographic map that showed the current locations of all 7 human supercarriers. The massive vessels were positioned at strategic points throughout Council space, close enough to every major world and military installation to intervene within hours if needed. The message was clear without being threatening. Humanity was not asking for permission to change the galactic order. They were announcing that the change had already happened. Admiral Vorthak, still recovering from his encounter with the Leviathan, addressed the Council via emergency transmission from his medical facility. The proud reptilian warrior had been forced to acknowledge that his species' military doctrine was completely obsolete. Human vessels could appear anywhere without warning, disable entire fleets without taking damage, and disappear again before any response was possible. The vote that followed was more ceremonial than necessary. One by one, the major species of the Council accepted the new reality that humanity now represented the dominant military force in the galaxy. Some did so gracefully, recognizing the opportunity for a more equitable system of governance. Others submitted reluctantly, knowing that resistance would be both futile and destructive. Captain Kevin Turner monitored the proceedings from Earth's Intelligence Center, satisfied that decades of careful planning had finally reached their conclusion. The network of human agents throughout Council space was already beginning to coordinate with local governments to establish the new order. Trade agreements were being renegotiated, territorial disputes were being mediated, and oppressive policies were being overturned. Chief Engineer Maria Santos watched the political transformation from her position aboard the Leviathan. The ship that had seemed impossible just years ago was now the first of a new class of vessels that would reshape galactic civilization. Human engineering had proven that there were always better ways to solve old problems if you were willing to think beyond conventional limitations. The session ended with Elena announcing humanity's commitment to building a galaxy where all species could prosper according to their own abilities and ambitions. The age of domination by the strongest was over. In its place would come an era of cooperation guided by wisdom rather than fear, protected by technology advanced enough to make war obsolete. As delegates filed out of the chamber, many stopped to speak privately with Elena. Former enemies offered their cooperation, while long-oppressed species expressed their gratitude for the promise of freedom. The galaxy was entering a new chapter in its history, one written not by the species with the biggest weapons, but by the civilization that had learned to hide its true strength until the moment was right to use it for the benefit of all.